What's going on, guys? Happy New Year to everybody. Bringing in 2023. I just want to thank everybody, as usual, for all the people who have subbed last year, all the amazing channels that I've gotten friendly with, or been on for streams, or had them on, or all of that. Couldn't have been a better second half of last year since I started the channel. So it is January, which it is Jigsaw January with a Z. So I'm going to be covering the whole Saw series and a whole bunch of zombie movies. That's where the Z comes from. And this is a series that gets a lot of shit from a lot of horror fans. Now, I know a lot of people who love this franchise right here. Like, I absolutely adore the Saw franchise. And I remember seeing this in theaters, just like every single one after this that came out every single year. It was almost like an event. It was like every single October or so, you knew Saw was coming out. And just everyone would go and watch these. I saw everyone in the theater. Let's talk about torture porn. Now, the whole idea of torture porn, it's stupid to me. Like, I never understood that term. Yeah, people are getting tortured in these movies. And, like, more specifically, I think you hear it more towards Hostel and Hostel 2 and, like, that whole series. I think I've heard more of the torture porn thing directed at those movies than Saw. But I still hear it all the time. And I just think it's a retarded term. Like, we have no problems watching other horror movies, watching Leatherface chainsaw the shit out of people and hack them up, and Jason crushing people's skulls and all of that. And then not even getting into Italian horror with, like, all the crazy elongated shots right before people are killed and how it lingers on the kill scenes. We're fine with all that, but this is too much. Like, the Saw films is over the top. That's crossing a line to be called torture porn. You never hear it said in a great way. You never hear, like, oh, that's my favorite torture porn movie. No, it's always a negative connotation to it. That these films are nothing but the torture scenes. And they're not. Like, they're much more than that. Like, for me and for other fans of this franchise. I love, you guys know how I am with continuity. I absolutely love the attention to detail and continuity in this franchise. Like, they would bring back people from previous installments to play dead bodies for like a 3 to 5 second shot. That's dedication. And anybody that's making a movie or a franchise like this that tries to pay attention, does everything make sense in this whole series? Absolutely not. And I can't wait to talk about all that. But for the most part, a lot of it makes sense. And I've always viewed this series as like a soap opera, like a horror torture soap opera. See, that sounds better than torture porn. Torture soap opera. That I'm fine with. You can call it that all day long. But I've always looked at it that way. And I love Tobin Bell throughout all the first few movies he's in, and then flashbacks and everything. I love that too. I love how the story is told as each movie goes on, and we get flashbacks that explain other things and stuff. And again, does it explain everything? No. But they do a damn good job of, like, really keeping to the continuity here. Almost as if they wrote the first 7 movies as one long story, even though they didn't. They just wrote this movie and then just year after year just pumped them out. So they didn't have a full story after this movie of, like, any idea where it was going. And the fact that they pulled off what they did with the first 7 movies and having the story be pretty cohesive throughout, I think it's a pretty damn good achievement. And this is, of course, James Wan and Leigh Whannell helped them write it. I always say Leigh Whannell. I'm pretty sure it's Leigh Whannell. I've heard people call him Leigh Whannell. I like Leigh. It looks better to me. It sounds how it looks. I always say Leigh Whannell. But The one thing in this movie that I can fault immediately is the acting. Like, the acting is terrible from Carrie Elways and from Leigh Whannell in this movie. And thankfully, I mean, the movie does rest on their performances, like, for the most part. But we have Danny Glover here, and we have the guy who plays Zepp, and we have Tobin Bell a little bit in this first movie. So, like, at least it's not all just like a bottleneck movie that it just all takes place in the bathroom. It does for the most part, like I said. But at least we get a break from their acting every now and then. Because, God, man, Leigh Whannell just could not. I think this was like the first movie he acted in. I could be 100% wrong on that. But I know this was like the first film that Whannell and Wan worked on together. And they created this franchise. So I'm guessing this was the first thing Whannell acted in. Which, again, I said I could be completely wrong. But the way he acts in this absolutely seems that way. Like, it really does. Do they have some points in this movie where it's not atrocious, like the acting and the dialogue? Yeah, a little bit. But for the most part, more from Elways than Whannell, for me. The acting is just not good, like, at all. Like, at least after this original movie, the acting got a little better. And then we had more story branching out and everything like that to at least take any bad acting, take the weight off of that shoulder of, like, the actors who are not great actors throughout this. But I just love the whole thing with the whole idea behind this series. That this guy was diagnosed with cancer, and he feels like people aren't. They take life for granted. That they're not living life to the fullest, that they all have faults that they're falling into, and that you have to really fight to live. And I love the whole story with Amanda coming in and being. I'll talk about this as we go on because I don't want to spoil stuff for people who haven't seen, like, the rest of the series. But keeping it vague, I love Jigsaw and there's Tobin Bell. I love Amanda in the franchise, and I love Hoffman. I know a lot of people who don't like the whole 4 through 6 because of Hoffman. I fucking love that character. Like, I think he's a great secondary antagonist to the series. But let's talk and watch Saw from 2004. James Wan, Whannell. Whannell, that's his name now. That's why I call it Leigh. Because if you switch that L with a W, you're spelling Way. So, to me, it's Leigh Whannell. So, let's get into it. Now, this is a tiny little thing. But I'll never forget, like, every year seeing these in the theaters and just waiting for the Twisted Pictures logo to come up. It's a cool logo, man. Like, with the little thing in the center that goes down, it tightens the barbed wire around it. You knew you were watching a Saw movie. Like, every time you went into the theater. I mean, obviously, you bought the tickets to see one of the Saw installments. But, like, every time that Twisted Pictures logo came up, it's like, all right, here we go. Like, time for the next installment. But this is the first installment, so we didn't have that feeling back when this came out. And yes, as much as I love this franchise, as usual, I will be ripping this apart because there is a lot of dumb shit throughout this franchise too. And I can pretty much, like, just brush it away because of just the love I have for this whole franchise. I can look at this whole series, especially, like, the people who don't like this series. Like, I hear a lot of people when I bring up Saw that they'll say, I like the first 2 or the first 3. And then after that, I kind of fell off of it. I would suggest to people who have that feeling, if you got the time. I was able to do this for the first time in a long time, like a year ago maybe, to watch all 7 of them back to back. Obviously not straight through in one day, but, like, watch 3 of them one night, watch 3 the next night, 3 the next night to, like, close the series out. When you watch them back to back, there's a lot more that you catch. And there's a lot more things that make sense that might not have. Like, if you were waiting in the theaters, to see them in theaters, one after another every year. Like, you'd have to bring a fucking notepad, like, to remember what goes on in this series, like, going year to year. But if you watch the first 7 especially back to back, it really flows very well. And that's a big reason of many that I adore the series. So right off the bat here, Jigsaw's a dick. Like, the whole way for Leigh Whannell to get out of the chain here, that we find out at the end, is the key that we see go down the drain as soon as he wakes up in the bathtub. That's not fair. Like, come on, man, that's not fair at all. Who wouldn't wake up in a bathtub thrashing about, afraid that they're like going to drown? They're waking up in a filled bathtub. Of course he's going to pull that drain. Like, it's attached to him somehow. Of course he's going to move and he's going to fucking fall down the drain. So why that's where he put the key? If Jigsaw's whole thing is that you can survive these traps, and we'll be talking about that a lot throughout this series. And as much as I've seen these movies, I haven't seen them back to back to back to back, except for like a year ago and maybe years before that. So I might forget as we're going through the first few movies who is responsible for each trap. Because once Hoffman takes over, then pretty much, and Amanda too, pretty much there's no way out of the traps. Like, they don't follow Jigsaw's, whole thing here of giving them a way out. Like, the traps that Hoffman and Amanda make later in the series are just not escapable. Like, for the most part. Like, they're not. They're just designed to kill people. But, so, I don't know why he just put the key in the bathtub there. Because this is Jigsaw doing this. Unless I'm forgetting something. This is Jigsaw through and through. So right off the bat, I don't get why that happens. Like, honestly, his videotape should have just said, well, if you got out of a bathtub, if the drain's, unplugged, you're just going to die here. The key was in there. It's no longer there. You have no way out of here. And Dr. Gordon, except for sawing his foot off, which he doesn't want to do, which we see Dr. Gordon do, obviously, at the end. Also, a quick shout out for Nanette for her channel. If anyone's not subscribed, definitely subscribe to her channel. And she is also going through the Saw series. When I mentioned I was doing Saw, she never really saw them, pun intended. And she's been doing live streams reviewing the first few Saw films. So definitely check those out if you want to hear differing opinions or similar thoughts or whatever we both feel about these movies. Now, his whole thing, when what's his name, Adam, right? Leigh Whannell's character, when he wakes up in here, and it's dark, and he's wondering, like, screaming, where am I? Like, and then he hears Dr. Gordon's voice. And he's telling him not to yell, there's no point. And he starts asking where he is. If you wake up in a bathroom that looks like this, any bathroom, actually, and you're chained to part of it, the only thing that should enter your mind is, I've been abducted by somebody. The only thing that should come to mind. Nobody has ever done a good deed to somebody they kidnapped and chained to a bathroom. Can you think of one? Not once. No, nobody has ever had anything good in their future who's been chained up to some strange ass location that they've never been to before, to this rusty, disgusting bathroom. No good has ever come from it. Also, let's get the score out of the way. The score to this for whole franchise, the iconic theme, is fucking brilliant. Like, it works every single movie. Like, as soon as you get to the twist part at the end of any of these movies in this franchise, and that music kicks in, it's like, get ready for a seizure, because every time they use that music, and then they have just the million cuts, and like usually I can't stand movies that do that. Like I feel like Marvel movies, and that's why I don't like superhero movies and stuff. There is just cut after cut after cut after cut. Like I miss the 70s and 80s, more so even in the 70s, when you just had unbroken shots for minutes at a time, like dialogue between people. And it would just be one stationary camera and just filming the whole scene. I can't stand a bunch of cuts. This is one of the few series that actually I enjoy it. Like every time we get the twist with that amazing theme music at the end, and we just see all the seizure-inducing flashing and the like all the scenes from the movie just cut up and shown and stuff while it's explaining the twist. Man, if that music doesn't get you pumped right at the end of a movie, but if it doesn't get you pumped up like after everything you've just seen, I don't know what to tell you. Like that is such a great score to this movie and whole franchise, that main theme. The rest of the score is pretty good too, but that main theme, man, like everyone knows that. Alright, so like I said earlier, I'm going to try not to give spoilers for the rest of the franchise or even the movie, because I actually had a subscriber of mine message me and say that they think my videos are like funny audiobooks or video books almost, I guess, because I'm like kind of describing the movie as I go along with the stupid observations I make. So I said, all right, so I guess people might watch videos for movies they haven't seen, like just to hear like my thoughts on it. Like it still doesn't ruin a movie for the most part. So I'm going to try to keep spoilers from now on out of like the beginning of videos and just kind of go with it as we go, unless it's something that I have to mention. Then people who haven't seen the movies, like, then you're shit out of luck, you're getting spoiled. But I'm gonna try from now on to keep it like that, to try to just go as we go and not mention like the ending of a movie at the beginning, and that's why it ties into this, and kind of just as we go talk about it type thing. But we have Dr. Gordon and Adam who wake up in this disgusting ass bathroom with just some dead body in the middle of the room with a gun that was in his hand, so it looks like he blew his brains out. And again, this is something I'll talk about at the end, but they mention in a later movie to try to explain this, and I mean, it's a fine explanation. It's still kind of ridiculous, but they were able to at least make it work a little bit. But they wake up in this bathroom. They don't know who brought them here. Then Dr. Gordon eventually kind of deduces who did this, and that there's been this killer in the newspapers, and he's basically forces people to go through these traps, and has this whole little mantra of, you know, those who don't appreciate life don't deserve life. So again, kind of fucked Adam right from the beginning here by putting that key right where he wakes up in a drain, like right next to the drain. That is a dick move. Like that goes against everything that we're told that Jigsaw is about. So I never understood why he did Adam dirty like that, but he did. So I guess we'll just gotta chop that up to whatever. That this was the first movie and they didn't have all idea, and they didn't have all of John's morals in written and figured out and stuff yet. I'll just chop it up to that. But yeah. Another thing, when you wake up in a situation like this and you see somebody else that's in the exact same situation as you, he's chained to a pipe too, he's here in this bathroom, it never is a good idea to just ask, like, what did you do to me? Like, I don't think he does in this one, but we hear this in the franchise. It's like, look around. Like, these people are all in the same situation as you. They didn't do shit. I'm sure Dr. Gordon didn't do this to him and then chained his own leg to a pipe. So, like, I don't know. The whole thing when, like, throughout this franchise, when they, like, blame another person or, like, what did you do to me when they first wake up? It's like, just look around. Just observe your environment. Like, I'm sure these people, like, in the later series, like, in the series later on, sure the people that you're stuck in a trap with did not do this to you. Adam's whole line here, when he when Dr. Gordon asks him what's his name, he says, my name is very fucking confused, what's your name? I cringe whenever I hear that. Like it's so bad. Like the dialogue the lines are delivered so bad from Leigh Whannell. And that's what I mean. The acting between the two of them is just not good in this first movie. I'm kind of surprised, and when this came out, was surprised that this got a sequel. I mean, it got so popular, but just from the acting alone in this movie, I was pretty surprised. Damn, they're actually making a sequel to this. And then look what happened after that. All right, so what I said a little bit ago about spoilers, fuck that whole stuff. I gotta. Like, this is a spoiler discussion, first of all. So, I gotta talk spoilers. When I love the whole thing of having John laying in the middle of the room, and how they mention a few times in this movie that he books, front row seats to his own sick games. I love the little detail that John on the floor of the bathroom is facing Adam. So obviously, if he was facing the other way, Gordon would recognize him like immediately. You would know who he is, and I love that little detail. Just the way that they have him facing Adam, who's never met him before, versus they could have just not paid attention and just had him laying on the ground. Then this is something I bring up a lot of videos, and I say like, well, people didn't notice this on the set or stuff. They could have like had him facing Gordon's way and nobody brought it up, and then somebody wants a release said that's stupid. Like, this guy knows him. Like, why didn't he recognize him the whole time? So I'm glad that they actually thought of that, and they made sure that he was facing Adam the whole time. Like a small little thing, but I love that about this. I don't know what this line is. Leigh Whannell, Adam. He's like, I've never seen it. This is the first dead body I've seen in real life before. Like, they look different in real life. They don't move. Yeah, I'm pretty sure dead people don't move ever. Like, besides like rigor mortis setting in and like, weird like things like bodies that have been recorded like sitting up or like moving their arms and stuff after being embalmed and stuff like that, and having all the chemicals put into them, and then rigor mortis setting in. Besides that, no dead person moves. So I don't know what that line is all about, but it's weird. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. Also, I'll say right off the bat here, this is not my favorite movie in the franchise. Like, no. Like, just with the acting alone, and the fact that, yeah, the traps are like the biggest thing besides the story to see these movies for. I actually enjoy the story more than watching the traps take place. But there's just not enough of them here. Like, all we have is them in the room, in the bathroom. And then we see Danny Glover and stuff, and his character, Tap, investigating Jigsaw and finding some of his previous games and stuff. This movie feels very, very influenced by Seven. And I know a lot of people who feel the same way. I felt that when it first came out. I know people who still say that to this day. That the original Saw, it feels like it's a slight ripoff of Seven. Which I could see it. Like, just having Tap being kind of like Morgan Freeman's character and just trying to figure out the serial killer and stuff. Like, I could see it. But I don't think it's a ripoff in any way. Like, it's definitely enough original stuff in here to differentiate it from Seven, which is a brilliant movie, which I gotta do eventually on this channel. Well, of course this channel. What other channel am I gonna do it on? It's gonna be this one. Now, I'll give Dr. Gordon props here for noticing the clock being brand new in this, dilapidated, disgusting-ass bathroom. So obviously, it's a new clock, and they wanted these two to know the time. Good observation on his part. But I don't know how many people would notice that, like, in this much distress, in this situation. I mean, I guess because you're looking for any way out of here. But I feel like this fast, nobody's noticing a clock that's new. Like, come on, really? Like I said, it's not impossible. It's not even improbable. Definitely could happen. I just feel like they would be dealing with so many thoughts and so many emotions of fear and just no idea what's happening to them. That he wouldn't pick that up that fast. That's what I'm trying to say. He could, but I don't think he would. And why would Adam ask to use the key after Dr. Gordon uses it on his chains that don't work? They're identical locks. Like, they look exactly the same. So I don't know why he thought that they would make it that easy for him to get out. And just like, let me try. Hey, it worked on mine. Sorry, it didn't work on yours. See ya. Like, I'll send help. Like, I don't know why he thought it would be that easy. But there is a decent amount of padding in this movie. Like, I'll be upfront about that. I still love it, but there is some pacing issues in this first movie. Like, for sure. All right. The whole point, too, that they kidnapped Adam here because he's a voyeur. I mean, like, he's a photographer. He gets hired as a freelance photographer to, most of the time, stake out guys cheating on their wives or vice versa and stuff like that. So is he really that bad of a person that he deserves this? I mean, no. The answer is no. Like, he does not deserve this. And he's the one who does not get out of this. Like, Dr. Gordon survives. We know why. But what did Adam really do wrong here? Like, if you have an answer, post it, because I would love to know. Like, we see a lot worse people. Like, just look at the second movie. All the criminals and shit like that. I can understand that. But Adam, he didn't really do anything wrong. Like, at least they don't tell us anything else that he's done wrong. All we know, he's a freelance photographer. That's it. Well, so, like, is he a peeping Tom? Like, was he taking, like, pictures of naked women without them knowing and stuff? Like, we don't hear any of that. All we know is that he was following Dr. Gordon, taking pictures when he was assumably cheating on his wife. That's all we know, and that he's a freelance photographer. So apparently for Jigsaw, freelance photographers deserve to be put to the test. If not, they die. I mean, I guess you could look at it as that this was Dr. Gordon's test to be recruited by Jigsaw, which you find out in, like, the 7th movie in this franchise. So I'm guessing that could be it, because his task is to kill Adam by 6 o'clock. So it seems like the odds are stacked in Dr. Gordon's favor and against Adam. But again, I mean, Adam didn't do anything wrong. He's not like a bad guy that we hear of or hear anything about. So is he just collateral damage and trying to recruit Dr. Gordon here? I'm guessing. Like, that's got to be the only thing. Because, like I said, he says on the tape right to Dr. Gordon, saying that, there are ways to win this all the way around, like, all around you. Yeah, not for Adam. Like, his key's gone. His key was gone as soon as the movie started. Key went down the drain. So there's no way out of this for Adam. Unless he saws his own foot off. That's the only way. So I'm guessing I'm going to go down that road. And I've thought this in the past, of maybe this is just his test for Gordon. But again, he's a dick to Adam. All the way. Ew, just imagine what's in that toilet that he has to reach in to get the bag. Actually, now that I think about it, if this is just a test for Dr. Gordon and Adam's just collateral damage, he's going to die no matter what. I wonder if Jigsaw's shit in that toilet just as a goof. Knowing that at some point Adam was going to have to go in there because of the heart symbol drawn on the toilet. Like, one of the clues here. So I wonder if he just took a dump in that thing and said, like, well, he's going to die anyway. Let him wade through this shit to find whatever he has to find. And this is where they find the saws. And they try cutting through these chains, which obviously are not getting cut by these rusty-ass saws. And then Dr. Gordon has to be the smart one, and he wants us to saw through our feet. I'd wait an hour. If it doesn't look like you're getting out of the situation in an hour, I'd cut my own foot off. I don't want to say that 100%, 90% sure I would. I'd have to make sure that door opens. If that door don't open, and if that's the whole point of this game, is to not to cut through your foot and not through the chains to get out of here. That door better be open, otherwise, again, dickhead move on Jigsaw. You're going to put them in this situation, have them chained up to a pipe. You're going to give them saws to cut through their feet to escape, to do what you're said to do. Like, this is the only way out of it for them, really. And then you're going to have that door locked and have them bleed out to death. Now, we see later that the door is open. But that was after Zepp comes in. So was it locked? I don't remember seeing him, like, unlock the door. So I think it's pretty much unlocked. But I'm not taking that chance. Like, I'm not cutting my own foot off to get to a door that's locked. And then you have to sit there and bleed out. That's terrible. So I would have Dr. Gordon, I know he tried reaching for the door and tried opening it. I would have him try so much harder. Or just wait it out. His family is in trouble. Adam doesn't seem to have any like close family or kids or anything like that. He doesn't seem married. He lives in that shithole apartment that he says himself, and he wakes up here in an actual shithole. So like, seems like he has a lot less to lose. So Gordon would be the one to cut off his foot first. Let him do it. Have him get to the door. Check that the door is open and that it's not locked. Then saw your own foot off and get out of there. Like, that's the way I would do it. Hold out for the other person to do it first. Make sure he can get out of the room. And then do what you got to do. And then, of course, we find out why Jigsaw is named Jigsaw, because he takes the little jigsaw piece off of his victims. Now, we see this in the flashback scene with Danny Glover. I'm going to keep calling him probably Danny Glover, but Officer Tapp, Detective Tapp, whatever the hell he is, in the flashback with the razor wire trap. Now, he had 2 hours to get through this trap. It's doable. It is. It's not like a complete dickhead move by like Hoffman or Amanda later on in the series where it's just impossible to get out of this. He could make it. He had 2 hours. But come on, did Jigsaw really think this fat fuck was getting through all this razor wire in 2 hours without cutting himself open all over the place? Like, it still seems like just a terrible move by Jigsaw. Like, he really doesn't believe in his own thing. Of just people should be allowed to get out of these traps. Nope. Like, this guy had no chance. And, I mean, he kept his word. The door was open until 3 o'clock, as they say, then it slammed shut. So he had 2 hours to get through there. And I'm saying it's not impossible to get through there. I could actually think of a few ways. But, especially in 2 hours. But just the size of the guy alone, man. Like, even if he had it arranged up in, like, some little obstacle course, but there were, like, the barbed wire in circles and stuff, and you'd have to crawl through it like a tunnel and, like a maze, find your way through. This guy of this size, he's not getting through any of that without slicing himself all over the place. So, Jigsaw, you're 2 for 2 for just being an asshole now. Okay, and then this one's egregiously dumb. With the whole trap with the guy who's engulfed in a flammable substance, and he has to carefully hold the candle as he's walking around and looking all over the walls with like hundreds and hundreds of numbers to pick out the combination for the safe. There's no way anyone is doing that. There's no way. Like, do you see how many numbers are in that room? This guy is going to just pick out the right numbers in whatever amount of time he had. There's not a chance. And he ends up just burning alive. So we meet Zepp in the little flashback of Dr. Gordon, talking to his, what the hell's the word I'm looking for? Understudies, medical students and stuff that are following him around. And, I mean, it's kind of it's a very expositional way of just dropping John's name. Like, he's given his whole speech and stuff about the patient, about John. Says the patient has a frontal lobe tumor, it's inoperable, and blah, blah, blah. Then Zepp just pulls up and he's like, his name's John. Like, it's like, obviously Dr. Gordon knows that. Like, he has his medical records right in front of him. So he knows the guy's name. So the only reason Zepp is there to say that is to tell us John's name. Like, that's just for us, the audience. That's for nobody else. And at the scene of the last trap, they find Dr. Gordon's pen, which they bring him in for questioning and everything. So they don't think he did this, but since this all happened to him and he got brought in for questioning by the police about this jigsaw murderer, how come he didn't immediately think and know as soon as he woke up, saying, shit, Jigsaw got me? Like, wouldn't that be the first thing to be on your mind if you were even remotely involved in this investigation? And he actually got to see Amanda's testimony and stuff. So why would he wait 20 minutes into the movie to say, I think I know who's doing this to us? That would be the first thing on my mind immediately. Be like, oh, this reeks of this serial killer that's in the news and stuff that's been putting people in these traps. Instantly. Dr. Gordon doesn't. But again, could it be, is this how far back, Jigsaw and Dr. Gordon were working together? And this was his test? I don't know. I forget if they ever mentioned that in the seventh one. Like when Dr. Gordon actually started doing the work for John. But I'm pretty sure they don't mention it being this early. So I don't know. The timeline in this series too is all over the place. Like, you don't know when any of this is happening. Like, as the movies keep going on, who knows how long apart they're supposed to be. Like, I'm pretty sure it's only over like a year or two, like the whole first 7 movies. Like, it's not like years and years and years that he's out doing this, like setting all these traps. So I only think it's over like a year or two. But he should have brought that up, Dr. Gordon, immediately. And then obviously let's talk Billy the Puppet. Iconic from this series. Like, I don't know what happened to James Wan as a kid. I say this about Lucio Fulci all the time. Something must have happened to Fulci. Like, he went to school and bullies would poke him in the eyes every day, and then he just all of a sudden, like when he decided to be a filmmaker, he was like, well, screw all you bullies, I'm going to show you one day. And then all his movies have eyes being torn out or ripped out or impaled. Something happened with James Wan with a doll or a dummy or something. Because every fucking movie that James Wan does almost has some type of doll or ventriloquist dummy or puppet or something. Every single one. I can't think of one without one. So something happened in his childhood that scared the hell out of him. That's had something to do with puppets. But the whole design of Billy the Puppet here looks awesome. And I like how when they finally made Spiral, just the name of it being Spiral and matches the whole spirals on Billy's face and stuff. Cool. And then we see Amanda here with the reverse bear trap, which is an awesome, that's so awesome, the reverse bear trap, which we finally partially get to see executed in part 6. Not fully, but we get to see it go off at least. And then we finally, I think it's part 7, right, that we see it with Jill. Pretty sure it's part 7. But Amanda here has the easiest job there is. Out of all the traps that we've seen so far that I said are basically impossible, all she had to do was cut into this guy. Yeah, he's alive, but I'm not getting my face ripped in two. I would be hacking into this guy like he's a Thanksgiving turkey. Like, I would be finding that key so fast. And again, this is her, this is her little audition, if you will, to following John's whole operation here and to be like his pupil, sort of. So it makes sense that it's easier for her to like beat her trap. But I mean, we're going from like a 9 or 10 on the impossibility scale with the ones before this to like a 1 for Amanda. She just got to stab this guy in the chest and get a key out. The other guy had to walk around with flammable fluid all over him, holding a candle, walking on glass, and fucking looking on a wall with hundreds of numbers all over the place to unlock a safe. You tell me which is the more fair one and the easier one. I'm going to go with Amanda. And of course, we find out that Amanda was a drug addict, and that's her flaw that she's being punished for. Again, at this point, we don't know that this is to get her as John's little student, but just taking it for this movie without knowing all that, ahead of us, still, I mean, she's a drug addict, so she needs help. It's a disease. John's so big on his cancer and it being a disease and shit like that. He don't recognize addiction as a disease. Jill worked at a fucking rehabilitation clinic. So, like, if anybody would see addiction as a disease, it should be John, from his wife Jill, working with these people all the time. Yeah, we find out that, Gideon gets killed and stuff, their unborn baby, when, that whatever his name, the junkie who breaks into the clinic. So I guess that could skew his, how he feels about drug addicts, like, for sure. So I guess it does kind of make sense, but still, like, that's a reason to, like, put someone in a trap like this. I don't know. What type of police detective says to a victim after she just told this horrible story of what happened to her, "Are you grateful, Mandy?" Yeah, I'm so grateful that I was put in that situation of life and death. And, like, what type of stupid question is that for a detective to ask? I mean, Hoffman does ask one of the victims in, like, 5 or 6 or something like that, but he's being a dick. Like, we know that. Like, the way that scene's presented, we know that he's just being an asshole. Tap is a good cop. Like, he's a good guy. He's trying to bring Jigsaw down. Like, who asked, "Are you alright?" After, like, did he help you? Or whatever the hell he asked. "Are you grateful?" That's what he asked. And then she says that he helped me. But then we see in, like, 2 movies that he didn't help her that much, because she didn't work out as his first pupil. Or, I don't even remember if she is his first pupil. Because I think Hoffman was helping him already by the next movie. Pretty sure. The rewatch of this whole series is going to be remembering certain things. Which is cool, because it's kind of the way that I like watching this series. Not remembering every little detail, then watching them back to back to back, and then being like, "Oh yeah, that's right," and then that means he was with them helping Jigsaw out from this movie and stuff. So it's fun how all the Jigsaw pieces, haha, pun again, fall together as you watch these movies. Adam's such an idiot. He sees the camera after they break the glass, and he's like, "Camera?" He's like, "Reality TV." Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this ain't a reality TV show. He's such a stupid character. I don't know if this, well, obviously wasn't intended, since they didn't know they were having sequels to this. But the whole little line of Adam saying to Dr. Gordon, saying, "It sounds like you admire this prick," works out awesomely as it connects to the later installments in this franchise. So that's a nice little foreshadow of something that had no clue it was foreshadowing anything, if that makes sense. But I like that little line. Now, like I was saying a little earlier with Adam, that he doesn't seem to have a family, like a wife or a kid or anything like that, that he's just living on his own. They never mention any family members of his. So we can assume he's kind of a loner. I mean, he is a freelance photographer. Not that that makes you a loner, but we get the, like, feeling that he's, like, kind of a loner type of guy. Now, Dr. Gordon has his wife and daughter kidnapped by Zepp. Once I found out my kids, like my kid and my wife, I don't have a wife, but I have a kid. Once I found out that their lives were in danger, my foot would be off instantly. Like, my foot would be sawed off. I'd saw both of them off. Yeah, there's no chain attached to the other one. I'd still do it. I'd even reschedule a YouTube stream for my daughter. And you know who you are. If you see this, no, I'm just joking. I love you. I had to throw a little joke in there. But I would immediately saw my foot off to get to my family. Like, not even a question. Like, I feel like he waits a little too long, Dr. Gordon, like, for the plot's convenience, to finally just decide, I got to get out of here and get to my family now. Like, he should have sawed his foot off at, like, the 40-minute mark. Now, I know a lot of this is sounding like I don't like this movie. And I say this a decent amount of videos from time to time, that when I'm just picking things apart. But this is the type of movie, especially as the first one in the franchise, when we get a lot of unanswered questions that get answered later. So a lot of this is just going to be like thinking up theories and reasons for why John is doing what he's doing to whom, is it whom or who? To whom he's doing it to? To who he's doing, whatever. To who he's doing it to. And that's going to be like most of this video. We're at 44 minutes, man. We're like 40 minutes into the movie. That's like pretty much on the same time schedule. And the whole thing with Dr. Gordon being involved in this trap, besides, like I keep saying, of it being his test, what did he really do wrong? Either. Like, just like Adam. Like, we see him go into the hotel room with that chick, but he doesn't sleep with her. I forget if he mentions they did it before, but I don't think so. I think he's just been accused of sleeping around on his wife, but he never really went through with it. So if he never did, then why the hell is he in this trap anyway? Like, he didn't do anything wrong. Like, yeah, I mean, it's still indiscretion. It's still, sneaking about and lying to your wife and stuff. I get it. But if he didn't fuck the girl in the hotel room, and it wasn't like an ongoing thing, he just had a moment of weakness, and he realized, good for him, like in the moment, that he can't do this. And he got up and he left. So from what we see, that's the only information we can gather on Dr. Gordon here. So that makes me even lean more towards that this is just his test, because he has no real reason to be in here, unless John's just pissed that that was his surgeon, his doctor, who told him he can't operate and can't help him and save his life. I don't think so. So I'm just going to keep going with that this is Dr. Gordon's test, because otherwise he has no reason to be in this room either. Now, again, they're sitting around showing photos of Dr. Gordon's family and stuff like that, when they really should be focusing on getting the hell out of here. Like, it's not like they're on a timetable or anything. It's not like till they have 6 o'clock until they got to get out of here. But then we see the whole picture thing when Dr. Gordon throws his wallet over. And he says, after Adam asks, like, where's the beautiful Mrs. Gordon or whatever. And he throws his wallet and he says, the picture behind whatever, and it's the only picture that has all of them in it. And then he pulls out the picture and it's not there. It's his wife and daughter tied up and gagged. And it says regards with a little jigsaw piece drawn next to it. I get why Adam doesn't show it to him. Like, I do. Like, if I was in that situation, I probably would do the same thing. I probably would not show him that picture. Because, hey, in the situation that they're in already, the last thing he needs to see is his wife and daughter tied up and gagged. In this situation, like, he does not have to see that. So I don't see anything wrong with what Adam did there by not showing the photograph. Now, we find out at the end here that Zepp is playing his own game, that he's being tested also. But it really seems like he's really, like, having fun with this. Because, I mean, the whole scene when he has Diana, the daughter, and the wife tied up, and then he starts putting the stethoscope to the daughter's chest while waving the gun around, that's some dark shit. That is so fucked up. Like, if I ever found this guy, he dies at the end. But if he didn't, this guy would be so dead, it's not even funny. This is the only movie of the franchise on Tubi. So if you guys are starting an online business, something like that, you're going to need Square. It's a great app. It's going to help take your credit card information from your customers, and you can commit identity theft as much as you want with Square. Brought to you by Tubi. So I just remembered during this ad break, because I was thinking about like the later entries. I forgot. So yeah, we find out pretty sure in the next one, in Saw 2, that Amanda helped set up this bathroom trap. So Amanda's been working with him at this point. That might explain the 2 impossible traps we see at the beginning, with the guy going through the barbed wire and the asshole who can't find the numbers while he's lit ablaze for the safe. So that makes sense if that was Amanda who set those traps up. which it sort of does make sense because we find out in the next movie she set up the bathroom. Now, these ones that we see happen before the bathroom trap with Adam and Dr. Gordon takes place. Pretty sure because they're showing these, like the investigation with Tap, I'm pretty sure it took place like 6 months or a year before where we open up here in the bathroom. So these are all like flashbacks to when we see like the previous crimes and everything and the traps. So I guess that's the way you can go with it. I guess Amanda did set those up, and that's why they're impossible to get through because that was her issue when we see her whole conversation with John in part three. So that makes the most sense. That after her trap and stuff with the reverse bear trap, that's when he recruited her. And then she set up these other traps. Somebody, if they have any other, theory on that, if whether John set up the barbed wire and the safe trap, or if it was Amanda, let me know because I'm pretty sure it was Amanda. I mean, also John's not very good at disguising his voice. Like, I mean, even when you listen, and it's such an iconic voice, like the Jigsaw's voice here, but it sounds just like John Kramer. Like, it just sounds a little distorted and a little deeper. But if you were talking to John Kramer, and then you listen to one of those tapes, you'd be able to say, like, that's you, right? Like, it sounds just like you, the way he talks and everything. So, I mean, he could have done a better job of disguising his voice for these tapes. Now, we've seen this in movies plenty of times, but I still like how Tap figures out the location of where to track down Jigsaw here by watching the tape. One of the, I think it was Amanda's tape, maybe, but he's listening to the tape, and then he notices that he hears an alarm bell, like a fire alarm going off, when he turns the volume all the way up. So we've seen this a lot. Like, first thing comes to mind is like Bird with the Crystal Plumage by Argento, when they listen to a tape in that and they hear the rare bird, making the sound in it, and then they figure out that the bird is a rare bird, but there's one in the town and that it's right next to the killer's place. So, like, it reminds me of that and a lot of other examples, but it's still effective here. It's still cool. It's still like a cool way of figuring out that John doesn't think of everything. Like, this is why you don't host crazy kill torture operations in any location that has any identifying sounds or anything like that. Nowhere near a fire alarm or a train station or anything like that, because the cops will pick that up. So I like how they handle that. The Asian cop, Singh, well, he doesn't sing in the movie, his name's Singh, who's with Tap when they trace it down to the warehouse from the alarm bell. And then they find that victim who's in the trap with the drills on the side of his head. And they find Billy the puppet and everything. Singh's really about to kill some random guy that they don't even know what Jigsaw looks like. But he's about to take this guy out with no evidence, like, of anything. How do they know that this isn't a victim? Like, we don't see Jigsaw yet. But he says that he got him, like, in his sights. I don't see how, because we don't see him at all. But he says, like, and Tap even says to him, we don't know what he looks like. Like, you can't just shoot him. Singh's like, come on, I got the fucker. Like, let's just take him out. Yeah, not how police officers do business. Like, he's just going to... The guy is not armed. And, like I said, they don't know what Jigsaw looks like. So they can't just go killing people with no identity, like, and then just ask questions later. Like, it does not work that way, and that's why Singh dies. I like when Jigsaw does show up, and he's talking to the guy with the drills, about to drill through his head. And he says, like, oh, you're up already. I need stronger tranquilizers next time. Yeah, like the ones you use to put yourself out for that entire bathroom sequence in this whole movie. This is another point, too, to make. Since this scene just happened, it reminded me of this. I've heard people describe, John Kramer or Jigsaw as a modern slasher icon. These are not slasher movies. He's not a slasher. And he's not a slasher icon. Like, he's a horror icon at this point, absolutely. But the only time this guy slashes anyone is right here when Tap and Sing are after him, and that's how he gets away from Tap. And he has like the blade hidden under his arm, like under his sleeve, and then he just like swings around and slices Tap's neck. That's the only person I think that John himself harms in any way in this series. Like I don't remember obviously all the whole 7 movies to know that for sure. Pretty sure though, this is like the only time that he's 100% that he's slashing anybody. Like this is it, and he didn't even kill the guy. So he's not a slasher. Like I'll say that right up front. He is not a slasher icon. Horror icon, yes, but I don't think he does this to anybody else in the rest of the franchise. Like hurt them, with his own hand or kill anybody. He 100% doesn't kill anybody. This is the only time we see him even vaguely attempt to kill somebody, and that was just so he can escape. Then Singh stupidly walks through and doesn't check his surroundings and trips on the wire and the shotguns that are aimed above, shoot him from above. That's cool. I like how that plays out. And if he did sing no more. Just like how I said earlier, that Dr. Gordon, through all this situation he's in, and all the fear and anxiety, and worried about his kid and his wife and all that, but he was able to like figure out and look at the clean clock and notice it was new. How fast that happened. The fact that they don't figure out the X marks the spot thing immediately is just as stupid. Like that one should have been solved immediately. The one with the clock, that should have taken some more time. Should have switched them around, because come on, I mean, they say X marks the spot, like you don't have to, things are more clear when your eyes are closed or some shit like that. It takes not a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon to figure out, like, if your eyes closed, that it's dark, well, shut the lights. And we get that steaming pile of convenience when Dr. Gordon says, like, don't keep me in the dark about anything. And that's what makes Leigh Whannell's character be like, oh, shut the lights off. And then they see the X. I don't know. They should have figured that out much quicker. So they find the whole little box with the 2 cigarettes in it and the note that says, the cigarettes are harmless, I promise. Would you trust that? Like, come on, man. The situation that you're in, and especially Dr. Gordon, who knows about Jigsaw and this whole thing about him, and that he is this crazy person who puts people in traps like this and kills them if they don't make it out, which is rare. I don't know. Like, I would not trust a note from this guy saying the cigarettes are harmless. Why would he tell the truth? Like, he is in this instance, but you don't know that. Again, Adam is just dying for a cigarette, which at that point, just like, if you're going to trust that note, just throw him a cigarette. Let the guy enjoy a last smoke before he dies. Like, come on. Like, you can't just, I don't know. That should have been like at least something. Jigsaw should leave at least a few things to go out with, like in all his traps. Leave a pack of smokes. Something. That way, at least you could say, well, if you're a smoker, at least I get to have a cigarette before I die. Something like that. Like something to take away all the terribleness of the situation. Be like, well, I'm getting ripped apart by this machine in a few seconds, but at least I can enjoy a cigarette. Like, at least there's some silver lining. Also, the pig mask in this franchise is very iconic too. I know it's Amanda wearing it most of the time. I don't think Jigsaw really wears it in this whole series, I want to say. Like, maybe, no, because we don't even see him. That pig suit, that's the first time we see it, is when Dr. Gordon's getting taken, right? So I'm assuming that's Amanda. Pretty sure it is. So I don't think he's ever worn that, like John himself. But, I mean, everyone knows what that pig mask is from. Like, immediately saw. Alright, so not a bad idea. Trying to trick Zepp, or they don't know he's the one watching, but trying to trick whoever's watching that he actually poisoned Adam with the cigarette. So they shut the lights off so they can whisper, even though you can hear them whispering, like, from Zepp's POV. It's not his POV, like, but over his shoulder when they're showing the screen he's watching. You can hear what they're saying. So I know that's just for the audience, but the whole acting by Leigh Whannell And I just said Leigh there. Hey, that's weird. Leigh Whannell. When he gets thrown that cigarette and he starts smoking it and then he pretends that he's poisoned and dying is cringeworthy. Like, it is so bad. Like, I'm surprised James Wan, that was the take that he chose. Like, was there, it was probably just one take, probably, with how low budget this movie was. I would have reshot that. It looks so terrible. Like, not even just a terrible performance from Adam of dying, but just a terrible performance from Whannell playing Adam pretending to die terribly. Like, it's so cringy. Every time I see this, I just like have to, oh, come on, man. You couldn't shoot that one more time? And see, that's even more evidence right there that Adam was pretty much set up to die here. I mean, Gordon has the task of killing Adam by 6 o'clock. Then he gets to talk to his family on the phone, his wife and daughter. And his wife says to him, don't trust Adam. Don't believe his lies. He's known you before today. So they're basically just giving this guy so much ammunition to snap against Adam and just eventually kill him, which I'm surprised he doesn't, but they're really just pushing hard. So it's got to be this was his test for Gordon. Yeah, so Adam says right here, you know what I do? I go around taking pictures of rich guys who meet up with their secretaries in hotel rooms and shit like that. So that's all he does. So I'm not regurgitating all that from earlier, but again, Adam has no reason, he did nothing wrong to be here in this trap or in this scenario in any way, shape, or form. Alright, so now we get the scene with the hotel room flashback with the whoever she is, who works under him at the hospital, something. And he doesn't go through with it. And he says to her, like, I'm sorry that I had you come down here, like, I can't, and they get the phone call and stuff. And they knew that it was for him, but then he leaves. And then afterwards he tells Adam and stuff, like, that I didn't cheat on his wife, like, on my wife. He says it, and you believe him. Like, the way he says it, pretty much I believe him when he says that. So again, he didn't really do anything to be here either, except for becoming an apprentice of Jigsaw. Besides that, like when this movie was just a standalone movie and we didn't get any of the story from after this, neither of these people deserve to be here at all. And Zepp is the one who made that phone call, right, to the hotel, because it's obviously Zepp's voice. It's not Adam's. Like, you can tell it's not Adam's voice. So that was Zepp. So how long this took place before they ended up in the bathroom? I'm pretty sure, but they showed him the parking garage here. They said that Adam said to him, you don't remember getting your picture taken. Which, I don't know how people miss that. If you're in a parking garage, it's dark like that, and a flash goes off, you don't realize that. You don't notice the bright-ass light brightening up the whole parking garage. You don't realize your picture was just taken. I don't know. But presumably that's right after he left the hotel room is when he went to the parking garage and then he got kidnapped. So this happened right before they ended up here. And Adam was taking the pictures of him and everything like that and getting them developed. So, again, neither of them deserve to be here. But that was Zepp on the phone for sure. Like, I can't think of anybody else who would be. It's obviously not Amanda. It's not Adam. It's not John. So, and you could tell. I mean, it's obviously Zepp. So, how long was Zepp involved in this? I don't know. We don't really find out when his test started. But I'm guessing not too long before the events of this movie, like the bathrooms events. Pretty sure his test had to start like the day before or a few days before, something like that, in order to kidnap the wife and daughter and everything like that while he got kidnapped and brought to the bathroom. So it couldn't have been more than a day or two that Zepp started his own game that we find out later on is his whole reason for being in this movie. Damn, this is over an hour video. Well, I guess I was talking about like the franchise and stuff like that too. So this is going to be the longest out of all of the Saw movies. But man, after hearing like all the gunshots and stuff on the phone, like when Dr. Gordon's listening and talking to his family, then Tap charges in and attacks Zepp, and they're shooting at each other and stuff. Just hearing the gunshots, I would be out. Like I said, I'd be out a lot quicker, like a lot longer ago. But I love how that's what pushes him over the edge. And just hearing all that and not knowing what happened, if they're alive even. And that's when he just snaps, Gordon. He's just like, and that's when he starts sawing his foot off. And he's like, I gotta get out of here. Like, I gotta help my family. And I just love how it builds to that. I also didn't mention earlier, but I like the fact that the chains are electrified. That he can push a button and it electrocutes them. So when he pulled off that whole brilliant performance with the cigarette, he was able to just shock the shit out of him and just know that he's not really dead. Like that, when I first saw that, that was a cool little touch. Cause like did not see that coming. Like with him just electrifying him and waking him back up, and while he's pretending to be dead. And yeah, the whole last 20 minutes of this movie is awesome. Like absolutely awesome. Just the whole chase from Tap when they're in the apartment or wherever they live with the daughter and the mom. When Tap comes in and starts chasing Zep, and then Zep makes his way to the bathroom. All of that until the end of the movie is just absolutely fantastic. And this is a major part of where Elway's acting amps up for me at the end here. Like the whole time that he's losing his mind and just pulling at the chains and crying and just doesn't know what to do until he just takes the hacksaw and starts sawing his leg off, or well, his foot. But his performance is, it's not great, but it's so much better than the majority of his acting in this movie. So just for that at the end, that makes this ending even better. That at least his acting isn't as terrible as it is for the majority of this movie. I don't want to say the rest of it, but the majority of it. But and it looks awesome too. Like when he's sawing into into his fucking leg, like right above the chain. You don't see too much in this movie compared to like the Trapped in the later ones. But when he first saws in and you see the blood start to come out and stuff, looks really good. Like no complaint on the practical effect there. Poor Tap. He almost made it to the bathroom. So Gordon shoots Adam. I think he only shoots him in the shoulder or some shit like that. I mean, he may be a good surgeon, but he's not a good shot. Like, if that was his goal to try to kill Adam here, and he's out of time anyway. So, I mean, Zep shows up and he basically says, like, I did it. And he's like, your time is up. It's the rules. Jigsaw's got some rules. Yeah, okay, that bathroom door is definitely not locked. Like, absolutely open. So, yeah, if I knew that, I would have chopped my foot off long ago. If I was Dr. Gordon, to get to my family. Absolutely. So, we find that out. Then I like how Adam's, like, playing dead on the ground. Now, is this a plan that they put together? Because they don't show it. Like, so was it his plan to shoot Adam? And then have Adam pretend to be dead, and then he just smashes in Zep's face with the top of the toilet cover? I don't know if that was a plan they put together, like the poison cigarette thing that failed miserably. I don't think so. I think Gordon actually went to try to kill Adam here. To try to to do what was asked of him to get out of this, to see his family again. And then Adam just happened to, he was alive. He got shot in the shoulder or whatever. So he's just laying there. Then as soon as he sees Zep come, he starts to kill him and smash his skull in. Pretty sure that's it. And then, could you really trust Dr. Gordon to come back for you? The answer is no, because Adam's dead. When we see him at the beginning of the next movie, he's been in that bathroom, but he died. So we know why Gordon doesn't come back, obviously. But could you trust anybody? Like, if anyone said, like, if he wasn't involved with John Kramer and he wasn't being recruited and stuff to be one of his 3 disciples with Hoffman and Amanda, would you trust anybody to come back? I wouldn't. I wouldn't trust a single soul. Unless it was like a family member or something like that, or a very close friend. Yeah, maybe. But, like, just some stranger? Yeah, sorry if it sounds dickish, but it's like, if I just cut my fucking foot off, I'm going to get ahead and help myself and my family. I'll let them know that there's some guy that was spying on me chained up in a bathroom somewhere. Like, I'll do that. I'm not coming back for you. Like, I got a lot more important shit that I got to worry about in my life. Ah, then that music swells in, man. It's so good. Like, it gives me fucking goosebumps every time that theme music kicks in at the end of one of these movies. It's just such a perfect composition for this franchise. And it works so well. So now this just brought up an interesting question. Now, when we hear one of the tapes, I want to say it's Dr. Gordon's, we hear Jigsaw coughing. Now, I always looked at that as it's John Kramer coughing because he's sick, he's dying of cancer and shit. We see him cough a shit ton later in the franchise, especially even in the next movie. So I always thought that was just him coughing from the cancer. But then we find out when we find out that Zepp is being tested that he has a slow acting poison in his system, and then we see a shot of him in all the flashback cuts and stuff like that. We see him coughing at the computer. So did Zepp make the video recordings for Gordon and for Adam, or was it John? That I don't know. Like I just thought of that now. Just hearing Zepp coughing from the poison going through his system, and that was his whole test. This is he has poison running through his system, and would he be able to kidnap a daughter and his wife in order to save his own life? What Zepp did? Hell if I know. What did he do wrong to end up in a trap? I don't know. Do they mention it here? Probably. I paused it, so I'll find out in a second. But that was interesting. That made me think, is that Zepp who made the recording for Dr. Gordon, or was that John? Was that John just coughing from his cancer, or was it Zepp coughing because of the poison going through his body? Never really questioned that before. Yeah, the tape doesn't mention what Zepp did wrong. Like, why he was chosen to be in his test or anything like that. He's not a criminal that we know of. Like, he has not done anything wrong. He's just an orderly at the hospital. So unless he chose him just because he worked at the hospital and he knew Dr. Gordon and stuff, that's probably the answer there. But again, doesn't fall into the criteria that we see from here on in the next installments for John's traps. Like, there has to be a reason for them to go into these traps, to be tested. We don't get Zepp's test, and I've mentioned enough already about Dr. Gordon, this being his test, and Adam is just screwed from the beginning. But then, when John just starts sitting up, and the music's playing, and you see the reaction on Adam's face, and he pulls the fake skin off him and stuff like that, and he says the key to that chain is in the bathtub, and just one more, like, screw you, Adam. Before he walks out and says so many people are so ungrateful to be alive and not you, not anymore. I mean, he's not going to be alive. He's not grateful. He's going to fucking die here in the bathroom. We see him dead at the beginning of the next movie. So I don't get that line. Like, most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you, not anymore. That would imply that he has a chance to go on living and be grateful for it. I'm sure he's not grateful from the moment John shuts that door and says game over until he starved to death and died. Pretty sure he wasn't grateful during that. So he ends up shutting the door and he's trapped inside there. So I don't want to keep going too long. This is already long as can be on Saw, but I will probably continue the franchise like a week from now, because I will be doing a leftover from 2022, leftover from the holidays, catch up kind of on franchises in the last few months for their themes that I still have a few movies left for. So I know I have, for the Halloween franchise, I have Rob Zombie's 2 and 2018 and Kills. I have Phantasm 2 through 5. I have Wes Craven's Final Nightmare. Final Nightmare. Yeah, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare mixed with Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That would be interesting. Wes Craven's New Nightmare and the remake, and I think 2 Argento films. So those will be all caught up within the next week. Then it is Jigsaw January, like I said. So we'll have this series knocked out hopefully by mid-month. Probably before that. Then just zombie movies galore. So wherever you guys are from, hope you guys had a fantastic holiday season here with Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating, the new year. So welcome to 2023, bitches. This is going to be a fun year for horror, and I'm hoping it's a good year for horror releases. So wherever you're from, hope you're having a good morning or good night, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, guys.